क्षीराक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गण्यां करोम्यहं पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदीम्। सुधाटीकायां परस्सन्निकर्षः संहिता इति सूत्रमधीयमानमस्ति। वर्णानाम् अतिशयितः सन्निधिः संहिता संज्ञः स्यात् इति तत्र मूलम्। प्रारम्भे उद्देश्यं किं विधेयं किम् इत्यस्य चर्चा करणीया। तत्र सन्निकर्षः इति उद्देश्यम् अस्ति। संहिता इति नूतनरूपेण संज्ञा विधीयते, अतः तत् विधेयमस्ति। परः सन्निकर्षः, उद्देश्यस्य विशेषणं परः इति। कीदृशः सन्निकर्षः? परः सन्निकर्षः। परः इत्युक्ते अतिशयितः, एक्स्ट्रीम् क्लोज्नेस् इति तत्र अर्थः दीयते। सन्निकर्ष इत्यस्मिन् शब्दे कृश इति धातुः घञ् इति प्रत्ययः। सो कृश इस् टु पुल्, सन्निकर्ष टु पुल् क्लोजर्। सो तस्य भावः सन्निकर्ष, सान्निध्यं, क्लोज्नेस् इति अर्थः। तत्र सन्निकर्ष इत्यस्यैव व्याकरणशास्त्रे संहिता इति नाम दीयते। सम्यक् धीयते इत्युक्ते सम्यक् धार्यते, सा संहिता. So when the two letters are extremely close to each other, we call it samhita. तत्र न्यायशास्त्रस्य भाषायां परः सन्निकर्षः इत्युक्ते किम्, एक्स्ट्रीम् क्लोज्नेस् इत्युक्ते किम् इति पृष्टे अर्धमात्रां यावत् तत्र विलम्बः अनुमन्यते तादृशः विलम्बः भवति एव, अतः स्वभावसिद्धः इति तत्र तस्य निर्देशः क्रियते। अतः अत्र व्याख्याने अपि उच्यते स्वभावसिद्धः अर्धमात्रा इति यः व्यवायः तस्मात् अधिकः व्यवायः न स्यात्। स्वभावसिद्ध अर्धमात्रातिरिक्तकाल व्यवाय शून्यत्वं संहिता, और स्वभावसिद्ध अर्धमात्राकालिक व्यवायातिरिक्त व्यवाय शून्यत्वं संहिता इति संहिता शब्दस्य व्याख्या दीयते. So these two sutras are actually next to each other, Parassannikarsh Samhita, and the next one is Viramo Vasanam. प्रथमाध्यायस्य चतुर्थपादस्य अन्तिमे इमे द्वे सूत्रे परस्सन्निकर्ष संहिता, विरामोवसानम, they define somewhat opposite terms. संहिता इत्युक्ते वर्णानाम् अतिशय सान्निध्यम, the opposite of that is avasana, the lack of the atishaya sannidhya or a pause of half a matra or more. That's virama, which is technically called avasana. So two samyas, one after the other. तत्र संहिता इत्यस्य अर्थः स्वभावसिद्ध अर्धमात्रातिरिक्त व्यवायशून्यत्वं संहिता इति उच्यते। अष्टाध्याय्यां संहिता इति संज्ञा परसन्निकर्ष संहिता इत्यनेन पाठ्यते। तत्र संहिता इति शब्दस्य त्रिषु स्थलेषु प्रयोगः कृतः अस्ति। संहितायाम् इति अधिकारः तत्र त्रिषु स्थलेषु वर्तते इति अपि अस्माभिः दृष्टं। तत्र संहितायां षष्ठाध्यायस्य प्रथमे पादे संहितायाम् इति प्रथमः संहिताधिकारः। अस्मिन् संहिताधिकारे सर्वाणि अच्सन्धिविधायकसूत्राणि पाठितानि सन्ति। सो इकः यण् अचि, सो इकः स्थाने यण् स्यात् अचि संहितायां विषये। सो तत्र इक् वर्णादनन्तरं संहितायाम् एव अच् वर्णः भवेत् तर्हि तत्र यणादेशः भवति, and so on. So the entire ach sandhi prakaranam is in the first samhitadhikara. The second samhitadhikara, samhitayam, is in 6.3. The speciality of 6.3 is that the entire 6.3, the third pada of the sixth adhyaya, lies in an adhikara called Aluguttarapade. This is a very special pada in Ashtadhyayi. It talks about all the karyas that happen on a Purvapada in presence of a certain Uttarapada. There are two words, Alug and Uttarapade. Both of them are adhikaras. Alug runs a little ahead, some 20-25 sutras, and the Uttarapade Adhikara runs Apada Parisamaptehe. So the Uttarapade Adhikara, look at this. Alug Adhikaraha Praganangaha. I think 6324 or something is the sutra. Anangrutodvandve 6325. So till this Anangrutodvandve, this Alug Adhikara runs. We don't need to worry about what it is, but understand. Alug Adhikara. The second Adhikara, Uttarapade, runs till end of the Pada. Uttarapadadhikaraha tu apada parismaptehe. The entire 6.3 is under the adhikara called Uttarapade. Kaha arthaha? Yatra Uttarapadam tatha Purvapadam iti bhedaha asti. The Uttarapada and Purvapada Bheda is usually there in Samasas, but some sutras in this section are also about Pratyaya being treated as an Uttarapada, and then there is a Prakriti which is being treated as a Purvapada. So, Vale and so on sutras are also there. We don't need to worry about any of that context right now. All that we need to understand is in this Uttarapadadhikara, the transformation done in the Purvapada because of the Uttarapada. For example, Vishwa plus Mitra becomes Vishwamitra. Stock example. Amara plus Vati. So that's the example of a Pratyaya. Amara plus Vati becomes Amaravati. Shara plus Vati becomes Sharavati. So the Dirgha on the Purvapada, because of the Uttarapada, is all categorized, collected under this Alug Uttarapade Adhikara. And in this Alug Uttarapade Adhikara, we have this sutram Samhitayam, which says that Asmin Adhikare Nirdishtani Karyani Samhitayaha Upasthito Bhavanti. So these specific karyas, the transformation on the Purvapada because of the Uttarapada happens due to the Samhitadhikara. The third adhikara is Tayorivavachi Samhitayam, last sutram of 8.2. So Ashtamadhyaya se Dvitiya Pada se Antimam sutram. This adhikara goes till A Adhyaya Parisamaptehe. Ityukte A Sutra Patha Parisamaptehe. 8.3, the entire 8.3 and the entire 8.4. This entire section, two full padas, is this Tritiyaha Samhita Adhikaraha. Primarily, Hal Sandhi related sutras are there. Stohoshchunashchuhu, Monuswaraha, Anuswarase, Parasavaranaha, and so on. Achorahabhyam Dve. All the Hal Sandhi related sutras, typically classified under Hal Sandhi, obviously there are other topics also, are mainly in this third Samhita Adhikara. So these are the primary three Samhita Adhikaras. Asmin sandarbhe purvasmin varge asmabhi kim drushtam. So now I don't want to go in the details because we did a lot of discussion in the last class. But the two takeaway messages in the last class were: first, there are other situations where a task something similar to Samhitadhikara happens. So for example, choho kuhu ityatra kutvam bhavati jhali pare kutvam bhavati iti vadamaha. Pratyay Vidhanam also happens in the Samhita and so on. Angakarya, many times it happens in the Samhita. There is no explicit Samhitadhikara present over there, but some karya similar to Samhita happens. If there would not have been an implicit Samhita, those karyas would not happen. Samhitadhikara is not explicitly present over there, but the karya kind of requires that Samhitadhikara. Second thing we saw, not everything in Ashtadhyayi requires Samhitadhikara. The five important vrittis that we say, the Samasa vritti, Tadhita vritti, Krud vritti, none of these vrittis require Samhita. And therefore, Sitayaha gacchati patihi. Ityatra vakye Samhita nasti. You can have Sitayaha, then pause, then gacchati, then pause, and then patihi. But you can still transform this sentence into Sita patihi gacchati, because Sitayaha and Patihi can be brought together when there is Paraspara Anvaya, when there is a Samarthya, when there is a mutual relationship between the two. This relationship is at a higher level, semantic level, than Samhita, which is simply a syntactic kind of approach or syntactic kind of association. Samhita is basically syntactic association. You speak something and then without a pause you speak something else. The meanings don't really matter. All that matters is your pronunciation. So it is a syntactic concept. All these five vrittis are semantic concepts. They are at the level of meanings. Unless you know what is a Sita and unless you know what is Pati, you cannot combine Sita Yaha Patihi and make Sita Patihi over there. The meaning is involved over there. And that is true everywhere. That is true with Krud Vritti, Samasa Vritti, Tadhita Vritti, Ekashesha Vritti, and Sanadhyanta Dhatu Vritti. So all five Vrittis revolve around the concept of Samarthya. That is the reason why the first Vritti, what is the first, in which order are these Vrittis taught in Ashtadhyayi? All the way in the beginning, he teaches Samasa Vritti in 2.1 and 2.2. After that, he teaches in the Samasa Vritti itself, he will teach Ekashesha Vritti over there. In fact, Ekashesha is even earlier. Sarupanam Ekashesha Ekavibhakto is in 1.2 itself. But sometimes, in for example, Nagesha does not consider Ekashesha as a Vritti. It will consider Ekashesha as a part of Dvandva, which is defined in 2.1 and 2.2. So Samasa and Ekashesha are defined in 2.1 and 2.2. Then we enter chapter number 3. In the beginning, there is Sanadyanta Dhatu Vritti, Guptich Kidhyasan, Man Badadan Shandyo Dirghashabhyasasya, and so on. After that, there is Krud Vritti. After that, there is Tadhita Vritti. So these four Vrittis are defined in this sequence. The very first sutram of 2.1.1, Samarthaha Padavidhihi. The Dvitiyadhyaya starts with this sutram. Samarthaha Padavidhihi. Kaharthaha Padavidhihi ityukte, anything that talks about a vritti is in the context of samarthya, in the context of semantic association on the level of meanings. So basically, let's not go in the details, but the idea over here is that all the vrittis are on the level of meaning. They do not have anything to do with samhita. Therefore, samhitayam iti adhikaraha 1.1.1 ityatra sampurnayaha ashtadhyayaha krute na diyate. You do not give an adhikara fulfilling the entire sutra patha, 4000 sutras. Now the question comes, which we left hanging in the last class, is Tatra ete trayah samhitadhikaraha kimartham dattaha. So what is the point in giving three samhitadhikaras explicitly if there are many other situations where also a samhita related karya is required? Idanim pashyamaha, out of these three samhitadhikaras, if I ask you that one of these three samhitadhikaras is actually useless, which one would that be according to you? Look at the three samhitadhikaras. The first one is about the achsandhi. The middle one is about the karya on the purvapada in presence of uttarapada. The third is about the halsandhi. What we are going to do is we are going to short down all three samhitadhikaras one by one, and we are actually going to show that none of these three samhitadhikaras are required. Okay, that's our goal for today. So one of these can be shot down very easily. The middle one. Why? Because the adhikara itself gives everything. When you call something as an uttarapada, if there is a virama between the purvapada and uttarapada, will you ever call purvapada a purvapada and uttarapada uttarapada? The definition of purva and uttara itself, the way it is used in the language, is this anantaratvam. You have something and then immediately something, and then you say purva pada and uttara pada. The terms purva pada and uttara pada are typically reserved for a samasa, sometimes also used in this context for a prakruti and pratyay association. And in samasa there is always samhita. Samhita ikapade nitya nitya dhatu pasargayoho nitya samase. Whenever there is a pratyaya, there will anyway be samhita. So the word uttarapada itself gives us that there is samhita. Therefore, having some karyas in the samhitadhikara inside uttarapada and having some karyas outside the samhitadhikara in the same uttarapadadhikara do not make any sense. Is everybody with me so far? What he could have done is he could have used Samhitayam along with Uttarapade in 631, and then it would have made some sense. Because any time there is Uttarapada, there will be Samhita. Can you ever have Uttarapada and Purvapada without having a close association between them? Sita Patihi Gachati. Will you call Sita as Purvapada and Gachati as Uttarapada? Never. We'll only call Sita as Purvapada, Pati as Uttarapada, and there is a close association between them. Therefore, this second Samhitayam Adhikara can be outrightly shot down by saying that it is unnecessary. Not incorrect, unnecessary. Technically, Uttarapada itself says that there must be Samhita. So, if Panini would have said Alug Uttarapade Samhitayam, then at least we would have said something. Okay, he wants to say Uttarapada and he wants to say Samhitayam for Spashtata Pratipatyartham. But he doesn't say like that. He says Aluguttarapade, and at some random place he just says Samhitayam for absolutely no reason. Therefore, in Shabdendu Shekhara, Nagesha says exactly this. See this line. Etat adhikarastha अन्य शास्त्राणाम उत्तरपदधिकारात् समासे एव प्रवृत्त्या तत्र च संहितायाः नित्यत्वात् अन्यत्र न फलम् इति बोध्यम्. This samhitadhikara has no value over here. Clear? Why? Etat adhikarastha. In this entire adhikara, anya shastranam, all the sutras present in this adhikara, uttara padadhikarat, they are already present in the uttara padadhikara. Alug uttarapade runs for the entire 6-3, so they are already present in the uttara padadhikara. When is the uttarapada term to be used? Primarily in the samasa. So samase eva pravruttya. This is to be employed in a samasa. What happens in a samasa? There is always some compulsory samhita. Samhita ikapade nitya nitya dhatu pasargayo nitya samase vakyetu. Tatra cha samhitayaha nityatvat anyatra ityukte. In this adhikara, in at other places, there is no phalam, there is no point of having samhita adhikara. Why do this partiality that 6.3.10 and 6.3.20 is outside samhita adhikara and 6.3.120 is inside the samhita adhikara? Why do this partiality? Everywhere there is Uttarapade. Uttarapade will anyway mean there is Purvapada. It will anyway mean there is Samhita. So no need to have explicit Samhita. Therefore, even Bhattoji Dikshita gets rid of, or Nagesha over here, gets rid of this middle Samhita Adhikara altogether.
But the Karika is a later one after the Ashtadhyayi, right? So
correct. Karika is later Ashtadhyayi, so we are not relying on Karika. All that we are saying is that in the Samasa, the Samhita is compulsory. Whether you write it through Karika or whether you understand it through the common sense is a different question. Clear? The Uttarapada word itself tells us that there is Samhita over there. Otherwise, a problem will come that is Samhita present only in 63114 and onwards? Is it not present in the sutras before that? If there is no Samhita before that, then can I have a pause between Purvapada and Uttarapada? If you have a pause between Purvapada and Uttarapada, will you ever call it as a Purvapada and Uttarapada at the very first place? Right?
So, is there anybody who defends the existence of this sutram?
Nobody. Not that I know of.
So then, what he just actually made a mistake,
It's not made a mistake or anything. It's
or
basically,
is it that
used
he
it.
forgot and he wanted to say, "Oh,
No,
I
I mean, you
wanted
mean,
meant to
I
say
mean,
Samhitayam," and
exactly. I mean, for example, there are always modifications suggested in the Sutra Patha, right? I mean, he creates Rashabhyam Nona Samanapade, but he does not get Ru Varnanasyanatvam Vachyam. So he forgets a Ru. So
mhm.
you always have something left out here and there, and then it gets corrected by people after that. Okay, so understand the difference over here. We are not saying that this Samhita Dhikara is wrong. He has not made any mistake. It's a redundancy, right? You don't need a Samhitadhikara over there because Uttarapade itself has a Samhitadhikara embedded in the concept of Uttarapada. Therefore, you don't need an explicit samhitadhikara over here.
And we only assume the end of the adhikara, right, Mahodaya? He hasn't explicitly so told. The Samhitayam adhikara extends till what, isn't it?
Correct. So we
So,
only say this. So he doesn't say, but starts with 63114 and it goes till 63135. So hardly 20 sutras. So starts with this samhitadhikara over there and 63135 vechotasti, I think, up to here. And then there is just anga. Sorry, the pada ends itself in 3-4 sutras and he starts with angasya. See, interesting. Your Samhita starts with 63114 for Samhitayam. A few sutras earlier is this very well-known sutra, Dhralope Purvasya Dirghonaha. Is it not in the Samhita? Dhralope Purvasya Dirghonaha. Have you studied this sutram or no? I don't know whether you have
Mahodaya.
studied.
Rory.
Ah,
After the Rory, we have
After
studied.
that, Rory. So, Punaramate. Ityatra, how do you do a Dirghadesha? If there is a virama between punar and ramate, if there is no samhita over here, will you ever be able to do punaramate by dhralope purvasya dirghonaha? No. So you have samhita over here, right? So there are these kind of arguments present. Basically, all that we are saying, as I have also been mentioning in the previous class again and again, is that it is not wrong to have samhitadhikara in 3 places. But why only 3 places? Have it at 100 different places. So there is no reason to start the samhitadhikara in 63114. We can always have samhitadhikara in the for the previous sutras also. And again, it's not required because everything is already covered under Uttarapade. Therefore, in Bruhachabdendu Shekhara, Nagesha, first he says, Asya prayojanam kim asti? Samhitayam ityasya paninehe matena kinchit prayojanam asti, parantu एतद् अधिकारस्थ अन्यशास्त्राणाम् उत्तरपदाधिकारात् समासे एव प्रवृत्त्या तत्र च संहितायाः नित्यत्वात् अन्यत्र न फलम् इति बोध्यम्. Let's move
Mahoday,
ahead.
now that we have analyzed as to why we could have done away with the sutra, are we also now going to
Which
further
sutra? Which
justify
sutra? Only the middle sutram,
middle
Samhitayam.
one? Yeah. So then, are we going to also go ahead and then justify as to why it is there? Is that going to be the approach?
No. I'm going to go ahead and short down the remaining two. I'm just waiting for you
Oh,
to digest that I've shot down first, and then I'll go ahead and
oh,
shoot down the remaining two. Okay.
oh.
So let's go
Okay.
this first sutram, Samhitayam 6172. What is there in this Samhitadhikara? We have ach sandhis in the Samhitadhikara. Mainly, let's take the example of iko and achi. What is this achi saptami doing over there? Why do you have saptami?
Paranimitta.
Paranimitta.
What is paranimitta? Which sutram?
Tasminniti. Purvasya.
Dishte
Tasminnite nirdishte purvasya. What is the
Purvasya.
vritti? Saptami nirdeshena vidhiyamanam karyam
Varna.
वर्णान्तरेण
Avya.
अव्यवहितस्य पूर्वस्य बोध्यम्. Saptami vibhakti always requires
Yeah.
avyavahita purvatva. Panchami
Samhita.
vibhakti always requires avyavahita paratva. What is avyavahita? You just now
Samhitaya.
said.
Samhita.
If you already have Samhita defined by Saptami Vibhakti, why the hell is this Samhita Adhikara present again? Clear? Shut down. Not needed. Same logic applies for Tayor Vavachi Samhitayam. All the Hal Sandhi, Soho Shchuna Shchuhu, Shchuna, Tritya is Yoge, Monuswaraha or Jhali. There is a Samhita over there. As soon as you use Saptami, all the karyas in the Ashta, they are specified with Saptami and Panchami, with Purvanimitta and Paranimitta. Tritya in to indicate yoga, which is either the Purvanimitta or the Paranimitta. In all these cases, it is avyavahita. As soon as there is avyavahita word coming in the picture, Samhita is guaranteed. You do not need an explicit Samhita adhikara. Samhitayam, all three adhikaras are completely redundant.
But the Samhita or the Avyavahita interpretation for Saptami, Panchami, it is not there in the Sutra, right? It comes from the Vyakarana.
Vyakhyanato Vishesha Pratipattihi, it comes from the commentaries.
Correct. So now can we say that because Panini did not explicitly put it in the Sutrani for the what is Saptami indicate, what does Panchami indicate, he wanted to clarify by putting it in the Swarasandhi
No, but
Sutra.
he does say, right? Tasmin niti nirdishte purvasya. He clearly says Saptami uses paranimitta. Tasmaditi uttarasya. So avyavahita bit is not explicitly present in the sutra.
Satyam. That is
But
why
the
I'm saying. So
right.
maybe that's why he
Right.
put
So
Samhitaya.
the point is, avyavahita bit has to be understood because if there is virama, then you cannot again say purvasya and uttarasya. Same
Okay.
logic for uttarapade versus purvapade, which we used to short down the middle one. When you say uttarapade, it means there is something purva to it. So in the same way, as soon as you say tasmin niti nirdishte purvasya, there must be an avyavahita purva. Tasmadityuttarasya, there must be an avyavahita uttara. Avyavahita is baked in the sutra, baked in the meaning itself. And then he must have explained it. That's how all the commentaries explain it. Not even a single commentary makes a difference over there. This is not a question of opinion, this is a question of interpreting the sutra, which is always being done in one straight way. Clear?
So this is yet another sutram which none of the Vyakarnas justify.
Which one?
Because sometimes there are two opinions, right? Some say, oh, not necessary.
No,
Some
so
say
tasmin
necessary.
iti nirdishte purvasya and
No,
tasmadityuttarasya, both
not
of
that.
them will have this one samhitayam.
Satyam.
Yeah, so that's what we said. All these three Samhitadhikaras are useless, is what
Okay.
almost every. You don't study it in Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi level. You don't even study it in Siddhanta Kaumudi level. All that I'm teaching is much, much higher level. I mean, this Bruhat
That is
Shabdendu Shekhara that I showed just now is not even taught in MA. It's for PhD and beyond, not even MA level work. So it's pretty advanced stuff, but this is, in my opinion, this is extremely basic and people should know this. It's not like a hi-fi, logic which nobody will understand. It's extremely trivial, and anybody who can think about it will understand it. That Samhita, the middle Samhitadhikara can be shot down because you have Uttarapade, which makes that Samhitadhikara redundant. The first and the third Samhitadhikara can be shot down because you have Saptami Vibhakti and Panchami Vibhakti. Like Dhra Pe Purvasya Dirghona, that Saptami Vibhakti is there. So even if that sutra is not in Samhitadhikara, it doesn't matter. And Mitre Charshau, so that Mitre Saptami is there. So it automatically includes the Samhitadhikara. So you do not need an explicit Samhitadhikara. We are not denying the existence of Samhita. We are not saying Samhita is not required. We are saying it is so obvious that you do not need to state it. Once you say I am going to Delhi, you don't have to say I am going to India. It's guaranteed. You don't need to unnecessarily state that again. In the same way, once you say it's Uttarapada, you don't need to say Samhita. Once you say it is Saptami or Panchami, you don't need to say Samhita. That's all that we are saying. Therefore, all the three Samhita Adhikaras are redundant, can be removed.
But the only hard thing to digest is, Mahodaya, if there is nothing, so there should be something that has made Panini to define it in these three places, which is special, right? Like
See,
we
I
don't
and
believe that or we don't think about it.
see the point is that when Panini wrote this particular three sutras, he will definitely have his own explanations. He must be teaching Ashtadhyayi to his students and he will have his own explanations. The point is, how many of these explanations were robust and were able to sustain the stream of intelligent grammarians across 2500 years? Some of the things are extremely robust, and even Nagesha justifies them. Some of the things were fragile, and because there were equally intelligent grammarians who came later on, who dissected Panini's grammar, these sutras, these things started falling down. Understand this. We are not renumbering the sutra patha. We are not getting rid of the sutra. We are not doing anything. This is all intellectual discussion. Okay, when you go back to your LSK classes, you have to forget all this temporarily and assume whatever is taught in Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi is right. But what is the higher level truth? The higher level truth is this. Was Panini a god who wrote a Sutra Patha without any mistakes? Definitely not. If anybody who believes Panini is God should not be even discussing all these things. We are discussing at a level of critic. Clear? And none of this is what Neelesh Bodas is saying. I am only a parrot. Whatever Nagesha says, I teach that to you. Whatever Bhashyakara says, I teach that to you. So I am going to show the proof of every word that I uttered, maybe in today's class or next class, where all this thing is explicitly written in the Bhashya. I will walk you this line by line and make you understand those lines. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to believe the Bhashyakara. See, we have Vyakyana of Nagesha that got rid of the middle Samhitadhikara. In the same way, I will show you the Vyakyana which got rid of the remaining two Samhitadhikaras. Let's take a look at this. In the Samhitayam Adhikara itself, the first Samhitadhikara, where is it? 6172 Samhitayam. In this Samhitadhikara itself, let's see what Bhashyakara says. Bhashyakara starts by saying, Ayam yogaha shakyaha avaktum. There is no need of this sutra. Yoga is sutra. Ayam yogaha shakyaha avaktum. Basically, he shuts down the Samhitadhikara completely. And this particular logic, whatever we will study in the next class, will be applicable for all three Samhitadhikaras. The middle is anyway shut down, there is no question about it. But still, this logic is extendable to all three Samhitadhikaras, and therefore all three Samhitadhikaras get shut down. Now tell me one thing. If the first Samhitadhikara is shut down, if the second Samhitadhikara is shut down, if the third Samhitadhikara is shut down, there is one more sutra that can be shut down. What is that?
Sannikarsha Samhita.
Very good. Very good. If you do not have any Samhitadhikaras in Ashtadhyayi, why waste a sutra defining a term called Samhita, defining a Samnya called Samhita, which is not used anywhere? Ashtadhyayi is not a glossary of all the samnyas. It's just defining samnyas that Vyakarana Shastra requires. If you do not require Samhita, it means you do not require Samhitadhikara. Therefore, Samhitadhikare cha pratyakhyate. Pratyakhyata means rejected. All the Samhitadhikaras are being rejected. Samhitadhikare cha pratyakhyate. Samhita samnya api prayojan abhavat pratyakhyata. This is how Kayyata ends his commentary on 6172. So 6172 Samhitayam, Bhashyakara says, Ayam yogaha shakyaha avaktum. It is possible to get rid of this sutram. He gives an explanation which we will learn in the next class. But the essence over here is that if the Samhitadhikara is removed from here, and by the same logic, if the Samhitadhikara is removed from everywhere else, Samhitadhikare cha pratyakhyate, Samhita samnyayaha kim prayojanam. You do not need a parasannikarsha samhita if the Samhitayam word is not used and Samhita is not used in any other places. I mean, even if it's used in any other places, you can get rid of it with the same logic that Bhashyakara uses. अतः संहिताधिकारे च प्रत्याख्याते संहिता संज्ञा अपि प्रयोजनस्य अभावात् प्रत्याख्याता. Therefore, you do not need the sutram parasannikarsha samhita iti nirnayah. Is everybody awake?
Amma, there's samyak asti.
Samyak asti?
So the karika also will be shot down, right? There won't be any karika in there.
See, the point of karika is that you're not getting the point over here. We are not shooting down the term called samhita. Samhita is Varnana Matishay
The
Sannidhyam.
concept
Okay.
is there.
The concept is there. The sutra has been shot down. Is there a sutra that tells that Ekam, Dvi, Tri, Chatvari, Pancha are Sankhyas? No. But you still have that concept of Sankhya. And you still use it, right? He uses the term Sankhya without telling you that Eka, Dvi, Tri are Sankhyas. In the same way, Vyakarnas can use the concept of Samhita without really bothering about defining Samhita using a sutram, because Panini doesn't need that.
Yeah, so you don't need that
Yeah, but
technical
the
term.
definition helps, right? Like even there.
See, help, as I mentioned earlier also, Ashtadhyayi was not for helping you. Ashtadhyayi is formalization of grammar. Just like the way Sandhi is Varna Vikara. Now, there is no sutram called Varna Vikara Sandhi in Ashtadhyayi, but that definition helps, right? In the same way, we are not shooting down the word. We are not saying the word is incorrect. We are just saying there is no need of a sutram. Parasannikarshaha samhita iti uttamam. There is no need of this sutram. Spoiler alert, Parasannikarsha samhita is shot down. The immediate next sutram, Viramo
Viramovasana.
Vasanam, will also be shot down. It's not there in Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, but it will get shot down with a slightly interesting and a different logic, but it will get shot down.
So Vavasane and all that, you are going to get rid of those sutras also,
No, that's
or
the
no,
point.
right?
I will not get rid of any sutram of Avavasane. I will get rid of just Viramavasanam without getting rid of the word Avasana. So what we did, we here went in a reverse way. We got rid of all the Samhitayam and therefore we got rid of Samhita. Now I'm going to put forth a different logic to get rid of Samhita without getting rid of Samhitayam, and we'll extend that logic to Viramo Vasanam, and we'll get rid of the Sutra, we'll get rid of the Samnya Avasana without really worrying about Vavasane and
Yeah,
Kharavasane or
because we are
Visarjanya
not
and all.
getting rid of any of these concepts. The concepts all remain. We are just getting rid
Correct.
of definition,
Of the
the
Sutras and
sutrani,
Samnyas.
yeah, the
Correct.
sutrani which are so-called defining these terms.
Correct. This is a very important understanding at this
Yeah.
point, that we are not getting rid of the concepts, we are only getting rid of the sutras. That's it. There is a very beautiful line in the Laghu Shabdendu Shekhara. I'll read this. Yaditu ardhamatra adhika kalena वर्णांतरेण वा व्यवधाने उपश्लेषः एव न इत्युच्यते. The word samhita is defined as a delay of ardha matra or less. More than that means no samhita. More than that means no closeness. Yadi ardha matradhika kalena or varnantarena, if there is another varna sitting in between, so if there is another letter between ika and acha, then it is a vyavadhana, so then there is no closeness at all. Then samhitadhikaraha vifalaha iti samhitayam iti sutre bhashye spashtam. So in the Samhitayam Sutra, which we will study in the next class, the Bhashya, the bottom line is that the Samhitadhikara is viphala, is useless for giving any result, any impact, is also mentioned in Laghu Shabdendu Shekhara in Tasmadityuttarasya. So same thing he keeps on saying again and again, different places. I showed you where he says this in the Laghu Shabdendu Shekhara, which is by Nagesha. I showed you where it is shown, where it is written in Pradeepa, which is by Kayyata. And obviously I showed you where it is written in the Bhashya by Patanjali. I am yogaha shakyah avaktum. Katham shakyah avaktum. This 2-3 line discussion, we will keep it for the next class.
Samhita ityukte, there is no meaning of closeness. Samipyam arthaha nasti. So just in
Kutra.
ordinary language. So for example,
Ha, very good question. Hold on that question and I'll come to that in the next class. In the Samanya Bhashayam, Loke
ah,
iti
ah,
vadavaha.
ah,
Loke iti Sankhya Shabdasya Yatha Artha Asti.
Satyam.
Tathaiva
Mm.
Samhita Shabdasya Artha Asti va. So that's exactly the Vartika that is defined in the Parasannikarsha Samhita Sutra. Look at this Vartikam. This Vartikam is also what I'm going to teach in the next class. Samhita Avasanayoho Lokaviditvat Siddham. In the Loka, the word Samhita and Avasana are as common as the word Sankhya, and therefore these
Okay.
terms are already accepted, understood, studied in the Loka. There is no need of defining these terms.
So
This
even
is
if
a
Samhitayam is brought in
Exactly. So this is the second argument that we will learn in the next class. Irrespective of whether the Samhita Adhikara is present or not, Just like the way Sankhya for 1, 2, 3, 4 need not be defined because of its popularity in the language. The words like Swara, Vyanjana, Akshara, Varna are not defined in Ashtadhyayi. So popular letters used everywhere in the Vyakarana Shastra. In the same way, Samhita and Avasana, these two words are so popular that irrespective of whether Samhitayam Adhikara is present or not, you do not need these two words. Therefore, na arthaha samnyadvaya vidhanena tena vina api ishtasya siddhatvat. Whatever ishta, whatever samhitayam adhikara is there, assuming that samhita adhikara is there, all that, the word samhita in that samhita adhikara will be understood by the natural language, by the loka vyavahara. अतः न अर्थः संज्ञाद्वय, which संज्ञाद्वय, samhita and avasana, both the samnyas, samhita and avasana, both these samnyas are very well known in the loka, just like swara, vyanjana, varna, akshara and so on. Therefore न अर्थः संज्ञाद्वय विधानेन तेन विना अपि इष्टस्य सिद्धत्वात्. So this is a different approach, altogether different angle of looking, without going into Samhita Adhikara and shooting down Samhita and Avasana together, purely because it is popular in the loka.
So we have to locate a kavya which has used Samhita before Panini has used it. Maybe what he used seemed very apt, so people started to use it in Loke also.
That's a very beautiful thought, possibly, yes. I mean, see, Panini uses the word Samhita, and Bhashyakara says after 200 years or 400 years that Samhita is Loka Viditatvat. Maybe within those 400 years, the word Samhita became popular, and Panini should have been credited for that, which we don't, which is a very,
In
very acceptable thought.